I'm going to turn it over to Ramirez then, in the interest of time, to do a demo. I will stop sharing my screen and let him kick off his screen.
All right. You guys see that okay? To start the demo, I'm going to talk about a few things. Let me kind of set the tone for you. I'm going to talk about 3 use cases, really, to walk through, and they seem to be some of the more prevalent use cases that we have seen lately. Those 3 use cases being remote user, SaaS applications or shadow IT, sanctioned and unsanctioned, and then finally, third, those protected applications and how customers will deal with that, right? Well, it all really begins with, let me see if I can shrink this here. It really begins with our unified agent. And with our unified agent, one of the things that we had heard before, and I'm sure you've heard this being an architect, is about agent fatigue, right? You know, so many systems running so many different agents. Now we kind of have a plug and play or license and play, as you will, for our one endpoint, where we take our endpoint for CASB, our endpoint for web, our endpoint for DLP, and converge it into one endpoint. It really all starts there. Under this particular platform with CSG, what that endpoint is doing for us is it's allowing us to redirect traffic to one of our 160 data centers that is, that's located in 120 different countries all over the world. So no matter where that particular user is, they will have access to their traffic will be able to be monitored, and they have access into our back end for those controls to be applied. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So to kind of start with that, this is our new dashboard and login page. You can log in from anywhere in the world to get into our dashboard for the CSG page. And on that particular dashboard, you're going to see a few things. Now, you don't see any much data populated here. Mine's pretty clean. I haven't demoed or done anything with it here in a few weeks, actually. But what I want to show really is this, is with these different solutions for us are converged here. You can see all the tabs here for those. But with this particular platform, I'm going to start with that first use case of general web browsing. And we're going to start with policies. And any secure web gateway admin will tell you that when we're dealing with browsing and doing that securely, really it starts with categories. They're trying to manage all these different categories. Much like other solutions, we have already predefined categories. We have everything from malware, for example, and what we can do with that, right? So we're going to be able to define that category and then the action we're going to be able to take with it. Of course, we're going to block malware here. But we can go a little bit further, and if we do something like gambling or a web page where we don't mind our users actually taking a look at it, it doesn't have to be blocked, but it can be rendered in a remote browser. Now, when we talk about remote browser isolation, what we're actually doing is taking that particular page, rendering it in a remote browser, virtual browser, in a sandbox in the cloud. So anything that happens, anything that gets executed, doesn't affect or happen on that local computer. It's happening safely in the cloud in a sandbox. That local endpoint is protected, and the customer or yourself, your environment is protected as well. Is this? There's a couple of other options that I didn't discuss, but I want to kind of get through these really quick and then go in depth, if y'all don't mind. One is also with YouTube. The other option that we have, because we have users that are working from home, productivity is the other thing that we're hearing a lot from our other customers. Are there users using YouTube and browsing all day? Are they shopping? Well, we have the ability to impose and use quota for time, and we can impose that. So the page still renders, but based on the quota that you allot, maybe an hour for YouTube, maybe 2 hours, whatever it is, that'll count against their time for that day. And then once that time is up, then that person will be blocked from that page from that point on. Another option that we have is the ability to do SSL decryption as well. So we can upload our own root certificate, and allow for encryption to happen for safe browsing. And we can also allow for decryption as well so that we can inspect things deeper. Does that make sense? All right, so let's take a look at that real quick. As I told you here, it kind of starts with that endpoint. So we're going to go to the system that has an endpoint. And the first thing I'll show you is really this page. This is a malware page. And if you notice, if I render this page and go here, it's immediately blocked. Exactly what we expected, because that's what we had pointed out. And this is common behavior. But if we go here to the gambling site, gambling.com, you saw there that I had that we can view it in our remote browser. And if I launch it here, it will allow me to go further. If I say proceed, which I will, and allow me to go ahead and render that page and the gambling site. Now, to go a step further, we talked about time quota and being able to apply quota for usage. And here's YouTube. And when I try to go to YouTube, we notice that it says use quota time. Now, if I click on this, Anna, you have any other demos you got to do today?
I don't. But,
Good. I'm glad, because I'm going to go ahead and say use quota time.
Go for it.
Because when I say that because what happens is this resets after midnight. So if any of my other peers go to use YouTube now, it will render. It won't give them that page, but it'll reset at midnight, or if it'll reset after an hour of them using it, what have you. If I have an unknown category, I also have the option, and this is what I see a lot of customers really interested in, because if you think about it, a 0-day threat page is usually going to be unknown for the category, right? I can now go here and say block access and render that as a, to bring up in RBI, right, to view in a remote browser. So instead of saying, you know what, with unknown stuff, just block it. Well, no, it may be okay, right? So don't block it, but I can render it in an isolated browser. I'm going to move on to the second use case, which was sanctioned and unsanctioned applications. First, I'm going to start with those unsanctioned applications. How can I control that and allow for, access or to be blocked for unsanctioned apps? So when I talk about unsanctioned applications, what I'm really talking about is shadow IT, right? So I can probably pick that up. Well, I can pick that up on my secure web gateway as well. But more importantly here, I can go and look up particular applications based on category or based on their name specifically. Here I have Dropbox being blocked. Why do I do that? Well, users get creative, right? So they say, you know what? Here's my business problem. I need to transfer this document. We have a limit on how big of a document we can transfer. I'll put it in my Dropbox and I'll share a link with you. Well, that's a problem. You know that, right? So that problem being now all of my confidential data is out there in that user's Dropbox and personal Dropbox. So I can go ahead and block Dropbox, but on this side, allow Box. Why? Because we have a corporate Box account. And as long as you have a corporate Box account, then you can go ahead and have access to that and transfer leveraging Box, because we do allow that. We can look up other things like take OneDrive, or where we're allowing OneDrive, but maybe like Google Drive. A lot of customers have their own personal Google Drives, and we don't want them putting things out in Google Drive, right? So I can block Google Drive from being opened up and used as well. So that's how we deal with unsanctioned applications. I also can do categories here like the storage and documents, and go through any of these and only allow the sanctioned applications that we use and that are corporate approved. So that's one way we deal with shadow IT. But let's talk about if we have applications we actually want to allow and protect. So if we're dealing with applications we want to allow and protect, we can look at protected cloud apps. Now, when we talk about protected cloud apps, what we're talking about is SaaS applications that sit out there and that we want to have visibility into, but like very detailed visibility, inline visibility, right? We want to be in the middle. And here we have Office 365 checked, we have Salesforce. These are all being monitored by our CASB inline. So I can go here and protect these applications and get full visibility on everything that's being sent. And then I can apply policy to any of that traffic and any of that data. So it gets very granular. The only case that we're talking about here with these protected applications, so I'll go delve into this a little more, and we can talk about Office 365, for example. Now that I have Office 365 being monitored, I can do things like have my users, when they're in Office 365, if they're trying to deal with data, let's say they open up, they have a document like this Social Security number, and now I can apply DLP policy to them. And if they want to open this up and work on it, that's fine, as long as they're on a company sanctioned system. But maybe they can't download this particular document, right? Because I have it to where they can't download it to their personal device unless it is a company device and it's registered. Then I can go ahead and do that. But maybe a confidential document, I don't even want them to bring it up here on the browser. Maybe I only allow them to download this on a company asset. All right, guys, with that ends my part of just the demo and this kind of overview of the platform and kind of showing you what it can do. I'm going to stop there, and let's take some questions and talk about it.